I'd like to call the September 8th, 2022 Planning Board public hearing to order. And so, roll call, please.
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present by Zoom.
The Secretary is here. Board Member Catalinato.
Present.
Board Member Mutu.
Present.
Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
We are all here. We have a quorum.
Great. Can you please join in for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you all for coming. Today's public hearing is for at least two of the three items on the agenda for both the site plan and the subdivision applications for Lewis Road. They'll be presented together. So a public hearing is for the planning board, all of us, to hear comments from you. There are no votes at a public hearing. The applicant and their representatives have agreed to abide by a 15-minute presentation to allow sufficient time for public input. We may have to manage time depending on how many people wish to speak, so we ask that you be succinct if you can. If we have to impose a time limit, we'll do a 4-minute time limit, but hopefully we won't have to do that. The in-person speakers, people who are here first, will go first, and then we'll take people on Zoom. We don't know quite how many that is. So we thank you for your written comments, and we thank you for helping to make this a productive public meeting. We have a list of people who've signed in, so I'm just going to call people in order. But prior to that, we have sufficient notice for...
Christine will be with us in a minute.
Okay.
She's working on it right now.
Okay. So if you haven't signed in and do want to sign in, please do so. Claire, do I have another sheet?
There is another sheet, but we're working on people out there too. So we're going to
Okay.
get you a complete sheet when you're ready.
Okay, good. No, we're going to probably take them at the end if they don't have sufficient notice.
They don't have the receipt.
So we're going to go right into the Lewis Road application. But am I waiting for Christine to tell us
Yes,
if she has sufficient notice?
Let me just go check.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you have a copy of this? You're not reading. I think Gloria's reading one. I'm reading, and Craig's reading.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it.
I printed it out because maybe this will be sent to us who are reading it. If I had to guess.
No, yeah. Thank you.
We're just waiting for our attorney to make sure that the notifications are complete before we can start the hearing. 5 minutes, okay.
It's a long, extensive mailing.
are some seats in the front.
Okay.
Okay, we have sufficient notice?
Yes, we
So
do,
we
Madam
can
Chair.
proceed with, for Lewis Road, and we will read into the record the subdivision first and then the site plan. So
I'm doing this.
George is doing the subdivision.
Please take notice that in accordance with Local Law 417 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, September 8, 2022, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing, to consider the final application entitled Lewis Road PRD subdivision. The final application proposes 118 units as 8 clubhouse condominium units, 18 village cottages, 40 village lots, 20 village estates, and 32 woodland estates, plus an additional 12 workforce rental housing units on site. Other project components include a recreational complex, fitness center, community pool and clubhouse, private 18-hole golf course, and other accessory structures, all as on-site amenities, and 72.5% open space equaling 440.66 acres, on a total of 180 assembled tax parcels totaling 607.74 acres of land situated in the CR 200 zoning district, compatible growth area of the Central Pine Barrens Overlay District and Aquifer Protection Overlay District, located on properties generally north and east of Lewis Road, in the vicinity of Spinney Road and extending north to and beyond Sunrise Highway, East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 900-250-3-1, with additional surrounding tax lots.
Thank you. Craig, do you want to go into
Sure.
the site plan?
Please take notice that in accordance with Local Law 417 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, September the 8th, 2022, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the site plan application entitled Lewis Road PRD Site Plan. The site plan application proposes some of the residential subdivision yield and 12 clustered lots as 8 condominium units within the above the accessory clubhouse and golf pro shop, and 12 on-site workforce housing units. Also proposed is a recreation area, a private 18-hole golf course, a fitness center, a community pool, and 90,151 square foot clubhouse, and other accessory structures in the CR 200 zoning district, compatible growth area of the Central Pine Barrens Overlay District and Aquifer Protection Overlay District, located on the properties generally north and east of Lewis Road, in the vicinity of Spinney Road, and extending north to and beyond Sunrise Highway, East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 900-250-3-1, with additional surrounding tax lots.
Thanks, Craig. A transcript of said hearings will be provided at a later date, and the public will have the opportunity to see and hear the meeting live and to provide comments. The public can watch the live meeting on the town clerk's website under the Planning Board Meeting tab, or participate through the Zoom app. If any interested members of the public would like to provide comments on the public hearing, comments can be submitted to the Planning Board via mail, email, or uploaded to the town clerk's portal prior to the meeting, where additional and updated information on ways to participate. So we'll first have the applicants make a presentation. They have 15 minutes.
Thank you.
So good evening, board members. My name is Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsigan Bruin. Southampton, New York, on behalf of DLV Quag, DLV Quag owner, and other affiliates, the applicants for the Lewis Road PRD. As requested by the board, we plan to make a short presentation summarizing the final application that's now before you. I plan to just give you a couple points about the application, and then Chick Voorhees will present an overview, which is on your TV. In our audience are principals, the owners, and our consultants who are available if the board has any questions. And as been the custom of the board, we expect the public hearing to be closed with a written comment period wherein we can respond to questions or issues that the board wants us to respond to. Just briefly, this application has been, at least from my perspective, I've been involved with the subdivision of this property since 2005. The town undertook a comprehensive plan amendment in 2008, adopted the East Quag land use plan, and as this board knows, and the submission I've submitted to you is a summary of documents I've previously submitted to you. I don't plan to go through everything, but one of the most essential factors in determining whether a land use application should be granted is consistency with the comprehensive plan. So again, I have provided you with all the items of the comprehensive plan and what we've strived to and what DLV Quag relied on in purchasing this property. Understanding that, a number of things have occurred, and I don't want to get into the complete history. I provided you with that. But as you know, the town board plan development district involved this planning board in its review. The PDD statute involved two steps. One is the town board's approval of use. That's different than the code would allow. And two, the planning board's approval of the subdivision. And that's in the statute. The planning board has always been more than an involved agency. A PDD could not be approved without the planning board. More importantly, a subdivision couldn't be approved by the planning board, and you have the sole jurisdiction over that in the town. So that being said, this application, after the town board failed to approve, despite having a positive final environmental impact statement, a positive seeker finding statement, they failed to get the necessary 4 votes, and therefore, the approval that we were seeking, which was essentially to have a golf club with its membership open to the public, was not allowed. We thereafter came back to this board in the question of whether or not a golf course could be considered a customary accessory use, was put a question to the building inspector, which was then appealed to the zoning board, and the zoning board properly decided that a golf course is a customary accessory use. In reliance on that, we submitted the preliminary application. This board, after several public hearings, in fact, after 6 months of review with your consultants, decided that the changes between what the plans and the layout at the town board level and what was approved by the, was submitted on the preliminary, the changes did not arise to a significant adverse impact and that no supplemental impact statement would be necessary. Thereafter, you had hearings, and after the hearings, you adopted a conditional preliminary approval and your own seeker finding statements. Among the normal conditions, the customary conditions, was approval of various agencies, including the town engineer's review, the Pine Barren Commission's review, and the Health Department. Thereafter, we applied to the Health Department and the Pine Barrens Commission. After a year, the Pine Barren Commission approved the plan. They approved it with some changes to the layout to better conform to the Pine Barren standards. And thereafter, both the Suffolk County Sewer Agency and the Health Department approved the plan. And the final application before you is essentially in accordance with the conditions of the approval. The modifications to the plan we have submitted, and this board has already adopted a finding that they don't arise to a significant adverse impact, and thus the scheduling of this hearing. What I'd like to do is now introduce Chick and let him give you an overview of the plan so that we can discuss it.
Thank you, Amy.
Good afternoon, good evening. For the record, my name is Chick Voorhees of Nelson Pope Voorhees, offices in Melville, and I am the environmental consultant on this project for just about the same number of years that Wayne indicated, going back to as far as 2005. So we're just going to go through some slides. We have some graphic images. We're all here because you found this application to be complete on August 11th. And that was after a very detailed review by staff. So we're just going to summarize some of the key changes that have occurred since the preliminary approval, and, of course, get to the public comments on the application. So these are the 4 items we're going to briefly address. And, Anthony, if you could just... This is the overall theme of the site. It does show the vast amount of open space in the image to the upper right. We're looking to create a very natural environment. There are many areas that are completely undisturbed, as required by all of the overlapping regulations for open space protection. But it's also a location for recreation, for families, for activities that are family-oriented and in keeping with Discovery Land's type of development. Next, please. These are all of the approvals that we've received to date. So basically, I'm not going to go through each one, but you had a pre-application. A key one after your preliminary approval was the Pine Barrens approval. And each of the agencies since the completion of seeker have issued their own statement of findings under seeker as is required. So this shows the dates, and as I said, one of the key ones was Pine Barrens, January 20th. We also have Health Department Sewer Agency approval, DEC, Health Subdivision approval under Article 6, Public Works for STP, and DEC approval for installation of groundwater monitoring wells. We also have team members here, if there are questions, that participated in many of these approvals, and we thought it was important to outline those key milestones that have already been achieved. This was the plan that was approved by this board under the preliminary map, and it just shows you the nature of the development at that time, the basic open space layouts, and as I go through a couple of key slides that show the changes, we'll have one other slide that displays the two side by side, just so you can do a comparison. So we can move to the next. The first change really had to do with a lot of input from the Pine Barrens Commission. There was a lot of representation by Mr. Shea as a representative to the commission and also a town employee, your chief environmental analyst. And the intent was to shift the development off of areas of steep slopes to the maximum extent practicable. That also has the benefit of aligning a greater amount of contiguous open space. So this was the first one that involved moving 9 residential lots to the southeast part of the project site. Next. This shows that after consultation with the Water Authority, the well field location that was determined during the preliminary was not optimum for their needs. And so there was an area of about 15 acres that had been a farm. It is revegetated in native vegetation. I inventoried it myself. But 4 acres of that, coinciding with the previous cleared area, is part of this map to dedicate to the Water Authority for their use for a future well field site. And the other part involved moving the sewage treatment plant from that northwest part on the Cracky property. The orientation here is north is to the left, so that lower arrow shows the STP being moved farther south, farther out of the central Pine Barrens, and basically more in line with the direction of groundwater flow with existing elevated nitrogen in groundwater from upgradient farm fields. So not in as pristine an area as the original location in terms of groundwater. Next. This shows that several of the golf holes were also shifted farther south, Now, these golf holes originally aligned with prior cleared areas. Anyone that's been to the site or even looked at an aerial knows that there were very large tracts that had been cleared. It was heavily used by all-terrain vehicles, and those were previously cleared areas. So we look to maximize use of those areas, but in consultation with Pine Barrens Commission, and through that review process, those were moved farther south for the two reasons I mentioned: contiguous open space and to move development from areas with slopes greater than 10%. Next. This is that final plat master plan that you have as part of your package that you determined to be complete after detailed staff review. And obviously, this is a very graphically oriented plan, but we have full submission plans with very detailed calculations showing that we meet all of the clearing restrictions under the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, Central Pine Barrens, and all applicable requirements. And the next one, oh, I'm sorry, one quick thing, that lower arrow does show that the access road, which came off of Oldfield Road, which was a not developed prior mapped road as part of the subdivision, is moved about 500 feet farther south through a right-of-way on a separate piece of property that provides access to the same general location on Lewis Road. That has been evaluated in terms of safety and geometry of the intersection and has been found to be satisfactory. So that's a minor change, but I don't want to overlook that. And the next one, Anthony, should show this side-by-side. The large black outline is basically the limits of the overall development area. And so the refinements through the Pine Barrens Commission approval, since you're preliminary, show that everything was shifted farther south. It's been condensed. Many of the lots and even unit types were condensed in order to achieve this type of design. Sewage treatment plant, water authority well field, and avoidance of areas with slopes greater than 10% to the maximum extent such that the Pine Barrens Commission found us to be consistent with that standard. So that kind of gives you the side-by-side just to help the graphic imaging. Next. So these were the refinements. I've covered most of them, but basically, the grading has been reduced. The site is balanced, so we don't need any DEC permits or approvals for movement of soil. That also reduces construction traffic. We had studied, looking at movement of soil off the site under the EIS process. That's not necessary, so that's a reduction in impacts. I mentioned the benefits of relocation of the STP and the water authority well field. And we also have been continually looking at potential acquisition of parcels, whether they be out parcels, road abandonments, and the property size has increased by about 20 acres from your preliminary approval. Now, we haven't requested any additional density for that increase in acreage, so obviously that would be a reduction in density just by taking the division of units over acres. So those are some of the important highlights of the refinements. These are just simplified maps of this type of map that's on the wall here, where we provided, again, the calculations, the detailed drawings to demonstrate that our total open space is greater than 71% of the site, that the clearing of natural vegetation is less than 25% of the site. And the next slide is that's the one, Anthony, thank you, that the open space outside of the development area, that was that heavy black line, is greater than 65%. And those were all either town or Pine Barrens Commission requirements. So we can go to some of these summary key points. Project is substantially the same as what you approved at the preliminary stage, and at that time you adopted findings to approve the project. The refinements were the result of input from one of the other agencies we have to get approval from, have since gotten that approval, and they also issued their own statement of findings as required under seeker. And the final proposed subdivision and site plan has less impact than the preliminary that was considered previously under your findings to approve. Therefore, no additional environmental review is required. Next. And that's it. We can go into more detail on any of the items you may need, but you asked us to be brief, and we want to respect that. Thank you.
Great, thank you for,
One more speaker, Jim.
okay, he's got a few minutes.
Hi, yes, hello, Mr. Chairman. My name is Stephen Barsha of Sive Paget and Roselle. I want to address very briefly what this public hearing is not, as opposed to what it is. What it is not, it is not a revisitation of the preliminary plat approval. It is not a reexamination of what this board has already approved and has approved finally. It is a review of the changes that have been made to the project, and that is what the scope of this public hearing is about. I say that because I suspect that you will get comments that will go beyond what the scope of this public hearing is about. And so I want to make it clear as a matter of record that this is a final plat approval and final subdivision approval process, and not a revisitation of this application from square one. That's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Okay, it's time for the public to speak, so I'm going to go down the list. Please be aware of time. We have so far 14 speakers, 12 plus in the Zoom, so it'll be a long hearing. Diane Larkin?
I can pass them all down if you want them to me. Thank you.
So just as a heads up, the next speaker will be Marissa Bridge, so just so you know.
Good evening. I'm reading a letter from Al Algieri from the Civic Association. So, dear Jackie LaFaro, Chairperson, members of the Southampton Town Planning Board, on March 6th, via hand delivery to the Southampton Town Planning Department office, I, Al, submitted a letter to the Chair of the Planning Board and all its members at this time, opposing the recommendation of Janice Shearer, the Town Planning and Development Administrator, that the Board review the overall Lewis Road residential planned development proposal in sections. I am making that same request today, and for the same reason. The plan has to be reviewed as a whole and not in sections to see the complete picture and evaluate the potential effect on water, air quality, and quality of life for the residents of East Quogue. Furthermore, the application before the Board today is significantly different from the one previously reviewed by this Board. Sewage treatment plant is now closer to Spinney Road. Some holes on the golf course were moved further south, and there are now 3 swimming pools, along with additional playing fields, etc., etc. And so, therefore, a new public hearing and assessment of this plan under the State Environmental Quality Review Act needs to be conducted. In fact, the law demands it. On August 11th, the Southampton Planning Board passed a resolution to deem Discovery Land's application complete and to hold a public hearing. This proposal plan is not complete. The site plan needs to be reviewed together with the subdivision plan, not separately, as they are part of the same PRD. The Zoning Board of Appeals approved an 18-hole golf course in the PRD, a maintenance building, an office, and 2 bathrooms. The Zoning Board of Appeals did not approve a clubhouse on 2 levels, condominiums on the 2nd level, a kitchen, and parking underground. Furthermore, the developers of the Lewis Road PRD are the same developers who submitted a prior golf resort application for this property known as the Hills Planned Development District, PDD, and failed to win approval. A PDD is not a PRD, and one cannot use the same criteria for both, although the Discovery Land developers keep doing that. The members of the Southampton Town Planning Board are responsible for the final decision on this application. The recently appointed members need to do their homework and not rely on staffers and those working for the developer. In fact, this applies to all members. Hopefully, we shall not have a repeat performance of the contract signed by Supervisor Schneiderman and reviewed by our town land manager and development administrator, Jane Shearer, with the consulting firm hired to further the Hampton Bays Downtown Overlay District. So, in conclusion, I ask that you do not close the public hearing, that you rescind your decision to consider the Lewis Road PRD and subdivision plans complete, that you can conduct a complete and coordinated SECRA review, and that you require a draft environment impact statement be prepared for both the proposed 130-lot subdivision and golf course and the related expansive site plan for the proposed on-site resort complex site. Respectfully, Al Algieri.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Marissa Bridge?
Hey, everybody. My name is Marissa Bridge. I am on the board of the East Quogue Civic Association, the Beautification Committee, the Conservation Committee of the West Hampton Garden Club, and the administrator of the East Quogue News Facebook page. Well, here we are, more than 10 years into the Discovery Land application for the Lewis Road PRD. Many of us have been working for and against this project for the entire time. Millions have been spent on every aspect of this project, from site plans and architectural drawings to lawyers' fees and political campaign donations. Discovery Land has tried every which way to get this project approved, even though every time it comes down to a vote, the people of East Quogue have been against it. And now we stand before the Southampton Planning Commission, who has given a green light to the most egregious set of site plans yet devised. We can only speculate on why you have done it, as it is a project that violates many well-established principles of environmental stewardship and land use management. We can only conclude that you must not care about the severe water shortage we face or our warming climate, because you want us to believe that putting in a mega golf course plus every other luxurious amenity one can possibly think of on a piece of land that sits atop our sole source water aquifer is good for East Quogue and the watershed that empties into Shinnecock Bay. Have you thought about what you're going to do in the next severe drought? Millions of gallons are going to be used to keep the golf course green, while the pesticides and fertilizer-soaked water will leak down to pollute the aquifer. It's a terrible idea, and the worst possible time to do something like this, very environmentally negligent at best. You politicians pay lip service to the principles of sustainability, then make backroom deals to greenlight projects like this. The developers are finally getting close to the finish line and getting one over on the hapless residents of East Quogue. They will pat each other on the back and congratulate each other on a job well done. Money will be rolling in for them and Southampton Town. A big win for all of you. But history will prove you wrong, and you will live knowing you participated in a major environmental travesty for the rest of your lives. This project will pollute a vital public resource for no reason other than to enrich the developer. I hope you rescind your approval of the golf course and accessory buildings and work with us, not against us, to find a way to protect our water using sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob DeLuca?
Well, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Board. My name is Bob DeLuca, and I serve as president of Group for the East End. For the record, the group is a 50-year-old conservation advocacy and education organization. We represent the conservation interests of several thousand member households across the East End, and the largest portion of our membership comes from Southampton Town. Given the number of people that want to speak and were represented by council this evening, I'm going to stand down, let council speak, and then if there's some reason later on I can put my hand up. I'd just like others to have a chance to speak as well. So with that, I think he's next on the list anyway.
Jeff Bregler?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Bragman?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Planning Board. I represent the Group for the East End. I'll try to be succinct, but I'd ask for a little consideration on time, given their involvement in the case over the years and in the litigations. Some comment on the PDD is important to say. I'll try to make it brief. There are really two things that will resonate with the ongoing review. One is that under the PDD, this is the earlier zoning change, the town board was the decision maker. And the reason for that is it's a policy reason. When developers come in and they want to get rid of existing zoning and gets generally a larger project, they offer what they call community benefits or environmental benefits. And so when they drafted the law, the drafters said town board's the appropriate lead agency decision maker. That's not the case in the planned residential development subdivision that's in front of you today. As to that, the town board has no interest in the case. They'd have no power over subdivisions or site plan review because their power years ago was delegated to this board. So the sole board in the town of East Hampton, I'm sorry, the town of Southampton, the sole board is the planning board that has the power, actually, to act on this application. So it's very curious to me, at this late stage in the game, that all of your documents reflect that the town board is the lead agency and you're only an involved agency. It's inaccurate. Why is that important? Well, SECRA is the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act. It's woven into your local town law. And in enacting it, the state legislature was very specific about the procedures that you had to follow. And because SECRA has some procedural requirements and it also has some substantive requirements. The procedural requirements are the steps you need to go through in order to have an orderly presentation of the evidence and an orderly decision-making process. And as to those procedural requirements, the law says they are must-dos. You must do them. You must follow them. This is not like a stop sign. You can roll it, you can come to sort of a stop, you roll through it, you get stopped, you can explain to the police officer if he's nice, I substantially complied, I really slowed down. And look, can't do that here. Why can't you do it? Because the New York State legislature, in enacting this procedure, stated that it was the intent of the legislature that to the fullest extent possible, the policy, statutes, and regulations of all its political subdivisions and all the divisions of the state government, including this town, this board, follow to the fullest extent possible the requirements of SECRA's procedural requirements. That's an unusual mandate. The New York State Court of Appeals stated as a general rule that the requirement for compliance is quite specific. It is literal compliance. Literal compliance. That's why I raised, before I really began talking about the law, the issue about who is the lead agency here. The fact that the town board was lead agency in the other process has no in an application that was denied, that failed to succeed under a law that was repealed, has virtually no significance in this environmental review. The other factor from the PDD that's relevant, the prior, you want to call it the zoning change application that's relevant, is that it had a block of measures that the applicants offered. They called them community benefits, but in reviewing the project, the town board noted that they had environmental impacts. And it was only because these benefits taken collectively reduced the total nitrate loading from this project that the board said by a very skin of the teeth kind of measure that it looked like it would be okay in terms of its nitrate output and the impact on surface waters. So that is extremely significant because in this application, this PRD, they got rid of them. They're not offering them. And so you're going to probably hear, oh, well, we have an as-of-right density here. As of right, we can do this as of right. And so we don't need to offer you anything. Well, that's not really true. First of all, there is no as-of-right anything under the law, because the only thing they have an as-of-right to build is a plan that succeeds through the filter of SECRA. a stringent, careful environmental review. So it doesn't really matter if they have, 130 units. Before, they only had 118 units. Now they have 130 units. They can't come in and go, we're entitled to that because your zoning gives it to us. The answer is, you're entitled to it provided that they're not contaminating the waters and that you can show us that your nitrate, output is acceptable to us. And what I'm suggesting to you is that nobody's talking about this. Nobody said, hey, all those measures that they were taking, to limit the septic output, are gone. This package of what they called community benefits, which were really environmental measures that mitigated the impacts of this project. Another difference in this project under the PRD is the fact that the Zoning Board of Appeals had to get involved here. And they've mentioned that, we got the okay from the Zoning Board of Appeals. Well, not so much. That's what that letter writer was saying in his letter. The Zoning Board of Appeals approved a golf course, and they specifically approved 6,500 square feet of buildings. They were a maintenance building, a couple of comfort stations, a pump house, a well house, 6,500 square feet of buildings. This project has a 90,000 square foot clubhouse. 90,000 square foot clubhouse. The ZBA, which is how they squeaked in under this PRD application, which is just an open space subdivision application, didn't explicitly said, we're not addressing the clubhouse. And, here's another little problem that they don't mention. The clubhouse has a 10-plex unit development in it. So it's got housing in the clubhouse. Well, it's an accessory structure. That's what they went to the ZBA to get a confirmation. And accessory structures in the town of Southampton can't have living facilities and cooking facilities, okay? So you've got a combination clubhouse with illegal occupancy in residences above it, 90,000 square feet, ZBA determination, never touched it, and council stands up and says, well, you can't make any comments about what's gone on here before. Yeah, you can. If there's things that they're doing that are not lawful under your zoning code, yeah, you can take those into account. Some of the, I mentioned the package of environmental benefits that they had. One was that they all reduced nitrate loading, and they're all gone from this application. So when they come in and give you this elaborate presentation, this was carefully reviewed in an environmental impact statement process back from 2015 to 2018, they failed to mention that they're no longer offering, we're not going to fund upgrading private septics in houses because we don't have to do that because this is not a PDD, this is just a subdivision. Well, you know what? That was one of the factors that at least convinced some of the town board initially that they had squeaked by and they weren't going to damage surface waters and groundwaters. Now they're not offering it. That's something that this board has to consider. They're not offering a wastewater treatment system in the Quogue Elementary School. I'm not suggesting you can order them to do that. But what I'm saying is, logically, when you look at what was reviewed in that prior EIS, the impact statement, that they're telling you, don't worry, just go along with it, you're an involved agency, that was one of the things they offered. Elementary schools have massive septic output. So when you control that, it helped them look good in the PDD.
Mr. Bragman, we have lots of other speakers.
Okay, all right, I'll hustle along here. And there were other things that they didn't preserve. I've mentioned the illegalities of the interpretation from the zoning board. I think that's a showstopper. You can't go forward with it because this board doesn't have the power to approve a use that's illegal under zoning. Also, it's really difficult to figure out what the relationship is between the site plan and the subdivision. SECRA says you can't segment an application, can't cut it into little pieces. That's precisely what's been done here. Do you know that in your approval of the preliminary plat plan in paragraph 19, you guys actually said you have to remove the site plan structures from that map. So the review of these projects has been segmented to the extent that they were ordered to take those structures off of the map. So we've never seen a map that has it all together. That is a classic violation of the policies of SECRA, because they know if you cut an application into little pieces, each little piece could look like it doesn't have impacts. When you put them together, then you can figure out how the impacts relate to each other. And there are impacts that relate. For example, the output from a 90,000 square foot clubhouse might have an impact on the waters when you bundle it up with everything else that's going on site. So segmentation has been a real problem in this case. I don't think you've handled it well. I can't blame the planning board. It's difficult to get your arms around a complex application like this, but we have some asks for you. We think that you should keep this hearing open because of the substantive problems that I've raised with it. We think that you have to start. You have to re-embark on SECRA. You are pretty far down the line on this application, and you are pretty far off the rails on this application. SECRA is a framework that lets you create an orderly and deliberative process, and it will explain everything. There'll be no confusion. We'd ask you to pause the hearing, hold it open, declare yourself lead agency, which you must do if SECRA is literally to be followed, and that's the mandate generally from the Court of Appeals. The town board is not and cannot be lead agency here. We ask you to rescind the resolution that says that the site plan is complete. One of the requirements of your local law for site plans is that before they're complete, they have to have a SECRA determination, a negative determination, or an EIS. There's been nothing of the kind here. And there are problems with using that old EIS. And you can't just substitute an environmental impact statement from an application under a completely different law for an application that's changed under a law that's now repealed and say, oh, 5 years later we're going to use that. It's just fine. It's not fine. And we'd ask you to not move the preliminary plat approval forward to the next stage, because you've got problems with the legality of what you're presented, and there are issues that you have to sort out. The only way you're going to be able to do it and understand it is if you meticulously follow SECRA. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Ragland. Maybe you can put that in writing and get it to us. Pat Lutsky? I'm really going to ask that we be aware of time. I mean, Jeff Bragman used up 2 slots, so. Ms. Lutsky.
Good evening. I'm a little wary of what I'm about to say. My name is Pat Lutsky. I've been a resident of East Quogue for the past 30 years. I've been a resident of Southampton Town for about 45 years. And just for the record, I want to say I am not a hapless resident of East Quogue. I happen to be a happy resident of East Quogue, and I hope the rest of my neighbors here in this room agree with me. I have a short prepared statement.
Thank you.
As in most cases that come before you, there are proponents who favor a project and those who do not. With regard to the Lewis Road planned residential development project in East Quogue, the opposition cites the critical need to preserve the Pine Barrens, to protect the vital source of our drinking water, and to safeguard the fragile ecosystem inhabiting the site. Well, who wouldn't want to do that? Regardless of what side of the fence you're on, we all want that. I'm among the proponents of this project because I can accept the fact that change at some point, if not today, then someday, is inevitable. Growth is inevitable, and it can be responsibly managed. If this weren't true, East Quogue would still be stuck in colonial America. Discovery Land has a proven track record as a qualified developer. It has demonstrated transparency throughout the planning and development process. This proposal was found to be generally in compliance with geological, ecological, water use, land use, and zoning plans. Discovery Land has publicly committed to preserving existing natural resources, and where potentially questionable, it has offered solutions to mitigate adverse impacts, environmental impacts. This plan proposes to preserve over 400 of the 600-acre site, leaving considerable open space. It has asserted that it will build a state-of-the-art sewage treatment plant, avoid development in hypersensitive areas, and perhaps most importantly, take proactive steps to protect our groundwater. In addition, the economic benefits of this project are not inconsequential, including increases to the school and town tax base, creating local jobs both during and after construction, including affordable workforce housing, and positively impacting local businesses and services in the area. Opponents are calling for the Planning Board to conduct a coordinated CEQA and draft environmental impact statement for the subdivision and golf course and related site plan for the resort complex. Is not what we've seen and read so far to date in the CEQA and DEIS that has been drafted enough to prove the argument that Discovery Land intends to work with the town and the East Quogue community to develop the site in a responsible manner with care and thoughtfulness to the natural resources of the site? Is there no trust in this process? Is there no trust in you as a planning board? We can say no to this planned development, but what we may be doing, in fact, is only staving off development of this parcel at some future date. Or we can accept that change is possible. Change can take place in a measured, managed, collaborative, and responsible way. For myself and other East Quogue residents who are in support of this project, we urge you to allow the Lewis Road PRD to move forward.
Thank you. Bill Kearns?
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. My name is Bill Kearns. I live on Spinney Road, next to the property in question. I've lived there for 30 years. I've been involved in this project, against this project, for coming on to 12 years. And I was driving here tonight and I said to myself, if this project is such a home run, if this project is such a grand slam for all the people involved, irrespective of the developers, why are we still here? Why has this taken so long? Because it's fraught with issues that have not been resolved and continue to grow on a daily basis. When the town board vetoed this project, the two votes that vetoed it said, we are concerned about the environmental impact of this project coinciding with what's happening with the environment over and above the project. So we've had PFOAs are now here to stay, evidently. They don't go anywhere. They're full-time residents in East Quogue on Lewis Road. This fertigation process that they have put together using a test that they themselves developed, that's like telling a student, here's your blank report card, fill in the marks you want. And now we have a situation where we're in a drought. These folks have the ability to pump 52 millions of water on their golf course a year. And if I put my sprinkler system on at night, I get a ticket on my half-acre property. So there's no equity here. And the situation concerning the fact that the town board was concerned about the environment is coming to fruition. It changes on a yearly basis. It gets worse on a yearly basis. The project is different than the one you first looked at. I mean, to put a sewage treatment plant in front of the homes on Spinney Road to put their headquarters, whatever you want to call it, which will issue paychecks to 90-some-odd employees across from the homes on Spinney Road, to have cesspools, open cesspools, to be able to pump fuel in front of the people's homes that have lived there for 30, 40, 50 years is unconscionable. It makes absolutely no sense. We were not informed of this. We got a letter from the law firm saying there's a public hearing. Did they tell us that they're going to put a sewage treatment plant in front of our homes? No. This project is not complete. This application is not complete. I read it, I downloaded it, I printed it, and it was all over the place. I couldn't make hide nor hair of it. I called the town twice to get the link for the project, the 700-page project. Nobody knew where it was. So it's incumbent upon you, until we get more information, until we get these issues resolved, until we get Spinney Road resolved. They're claiming that Spinney Road is going to become part of this project. Now, that's a public road. That's a separate issue altogether. I'd like to see ATVs up there. Not really. But that being said, this project is nowhere near complete. And this is a major impact. This is not just on East Quogue, not just on the water, not just on the environment, but on the town in general. All right, it's gone on long enough, and I believe it's firmly, it's time to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Anthony Jr.? S.R. Anthony Jr.? No? Not here? No. No. Okay, then we'll move on to Mike Mirias.
Good evening, Planning Board. I've been involved in this project. I live in East Quogue.
Could you please identify yourself?
My name is Mike Marino. I live in East Quogue.
Thank you.
The thing with that property, it has 5-acre zoning. So the way the zoning looks to me is you put a house on 5 acres, and then you put another house on the next 5 acres, and then the next house, so everything's spread out. And it's been like that for a long time, and there's been no houses built there because there's no demand for houses. So the golf course was an idea. Let's put a centerpiece there. It's not near the water, that property, so we put a golf course. We'll create demand. So I told this to the board when it was first proposed. You could control the quality of the environment by just not granting that special permission for a golf course. So they got the ZBA to address the golf course. But maybe that's not even enough. Maybe they need a 90,000 square foot wedding hall, or whatever you want to call it, in the middle of the Pine Barrens there, to generate enough interest. Swimming pools, all kinds of courts, whatever. So, and you got the airport there so they can get there quick and then get right there. But I also live right on the creek there, where the fresh water mixes with the seawater, and there's thousands of crabs there, and there's thousands of bait fish there, and I see this every spring. I see it now. Snappers are jumping every day. So if they're going to put, I also golf. I've been on a golf course and I'm trying to find my ball because there's all these white bubbles everywhere. I said, "Where's the ball?" I didn't know what it was. It was pesticides. They had this thing that they drag in the golf course to spread the pesticides. It's not easy to keep the grass that clean. That's not the place for a golf course. It's going to drain into the water. That water goes right into the bay. Now they're moving everything south. That's going to be closer to the bay. And if I see that there's no fish in a few years, I'm going to know where to look. I'm going to know exactly where to look. So I don't want to see that. I want to see fish. I want to see everything natural. You want to build houses there? Listen, you pay money for property, you should be able to build on it. But you shouldn't be able to mangle the rules to your suiting to make your property valuable more than it is at everybody else's expense and at the expense of Shinnecock Bay. I'm telling you, there's a lot of bait fish comes up from there. I sent pictures to the ZBA the last time. Pictures of the bird. All the birds are there because they eat the fish. And I sent them pictures of all different species of fish. There's blue herons on that water. And this water is, cross Montauk Highway, go another couple of 100 yards north, and you're in their property. So when they drain everything there and have a sewage treatment plant, it's going to filter down into the bay. And if I see a change, like I said, I know where to look.
Okay, thank you very much. Mike, please, Michael Alestia, is it? Alestra.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
My name is Michael Alestra, and I live in East Quogue. I thought I would start with something that perhaps is a little different. Perhaps we can agree on two things. Let's see if perhaps those that agree with Discovery and those who are proponent of Discovery. In 1993, the Pine Barrens was developed to preserve about 100,000 acres of land. Why? Because it was environmentally sensitive, because it contains the drinking water and the aquifers that we all use. I think we can all agree on that, right? Second, Shinnecock Bay is improving dramatically. I have an article in the Southampton Press, probably many of you have seen it, that Dr. Gobler did some research over the last 10 years, and the clams have rebounded 1,700%. There's 100 acres of new eelgrass, and no longer is there brown tide. I think we'd all agree that's good, right? I don't think anyone would disagree with that. Well, then we get Discovery, and they come into East Quogue, and they want to build, now I understand, 130 different luxury homes, and of course, 18-hole golf course in the Pine Barrens. Okay? Well, I don't think initially in 1993, when those legislators proposed the Pine Barren legislation, they were thinking about envisioning a golf course and luxury homes there. I doubt it. But now here is where we are. Well, let's look at the winners. And with winners, there's always losers. Well, of course, construction companies will make money. Perhaps some of you out here do that. There are real estate agents. I suspect some of you may be out there, and you do that, and you will benefit. There are landscapers, and they will benefit. New homeowners, they'll benefit. And of course, Discovery Land will benefit, no doubt, tremendously. Well, how about the losers? Well, potentially, all of us who get the drinking water from the aquifers under the Pine Barrens might very well be jeopardized if there is a problem. And of course, Shinnecock Bay, that is rebounding wonderfully, could very well be impacted negatively as well. Well, I guess the question, is it worth it? Well, I certainly don't think so. I have been to almost all the meetings about this development from the very beginnings. Unfortunately, after reading about the actions of Schneiderman and Company and the lawyers in the Hampton Bay project, who, by the way, have the same law firm as Discovery, I guess our voices are meant to be discredited, minimized, dismissed as malcontents. We're just angry. Well, I don't believe the cost-benefit analysis doesn't really seem to warrant this project going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Peter Sartoring, I can't understand the Sartor. Yes, what is that last name?
Sartorius.
Sartorius, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Peter Sartorius. I live in Quogue. Until last July, I was the mayor of Quogue for about the last 12 years. This project has been going on just about that long. I first met the Discovery people when they called on me back in 2010 or 11, and I was impressed with what they wanted to do. I thought it was a tough project to get done, but I was impressed. As it went forward, I attended many of the public hearings before the town board, and I read, actually, a lot of the documents that were submitted, environmentally and otherwise. And frankly, I think this project is a home run for East Quogue, and many of the people that I've talked to about it in Quogue think it's a home run. I want to commend the planning board for the actions that you've taken in the past on this project. I think you've taken a very pragmatic and sensible approach, and I would urge you to close the public hearing, and then let's move forward with this project and get it accomplished after many, many years of study and discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Manning? Dan Manning?
Good evening, and thank you for having this hearing tonight for public opinion. From what I understood, it was supposed to be just a brief public opinion, and not to rehash everything that we've heard over the past years and years and years. To me, it seems that it's just gone on too long. I'm a longtime resident of Spinney Road in East Quogue. I've lived there for over 30 years, and I am very supportive of this project. I followed it from day one because of being so close to home, and I can proudly say a lot of my friends in East Quogue are supportive of it as well. The letter that was written earlier by the Civic Association, that does not represent all the people of East Quogue. I want to be certain about that. That's a small group, maybe. I don't know how many people, but I just don't want it to be left on the table. They absolutely represent everybody. Me and many of my friends who live in East Quogue, and especially a lot of the young families, look forward to this project and being completed and moved on. I wrote a few notes. I've been impressed with them since day one. I followed this project closely, as I said, and the planning for this and the following of this project has been impeccable, I think. I think anytime any of the municipalities, the agencies, the boards, the commissions asked them to do something, they said, okay, we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll retweak it and we'll do it again. That's been obvious over the years. They've continually responded to requests from the community, the various oversight boards, commissions, to improve and upgrade this plan. It's fair to say many changes have resulted in improvements beyond what they were even asked for, in my opinion, as I've seen this plan move forward. The Pine Barrens Commission has approved this, as this board has approved this, and they've often had comments again and suggestions that, again, this board as well, the Discovery Company went and approved again. They just keep responding to requests from the community and everybody in the town, agencies, to help better this project to a point where we're now, I think it's hard to say it hasn't improved far, far, far much better since the initial application was put in. It's unfortunate the East Quogue community over the years now has lost some of the original perks that were going to be in the plan. Somebody mentioned because this has been going on so long, delay, because every time they do something, it seems like there's another opposition to something. They fix this, they make this better, then the opposition comes up with something else. It seems to be a tactic of stall and delay that they keep trying to grab straws for. In my opinion, they're out of straws. They're out of delays, they're out of everything. I really would hope that it's time to move on, let this company put a shovel in the ground, and I wrote a lot of stuff, but I think it's just rehashing a lot of stuff tonight. There's no sense keeping it any longer. You're here just to hear a few comments and not to rehash what's been rehashed over and over for too long. Let them put a shovel in the ground, end this now, and let's move forward for the betterment of East Quogue, the young people, the businesses, and the young families in the future of East Quogue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mary Ellen Manning?
Yes, hi, I'm Mary Ellen Manning, Dan's wife. 1980, I bought a house in East Quogue on Spinney Road, okay? Me and many of my neighbors are 100% for this project. People that get up and pretend to be talking for the entire community are not, believe me. It is time to close this meeting. If you've come to any of these meetings, it's the same 10 to 20 people that get up and say the same things over and over and over again. And as my husband said, all they try and do is delay this project. East Quogue is like the orphan of the Hamptons. Everywhere else, you go to West Hampton, they're building, you go to Southampton, they're building. Everywhere else you go, they're building, but in East Quogue. East Quogue needs this project. Please, close this meeting.
Thank you. Paul Delardro? Paul Delardro? Is that the correct spelling?
Delandro.
Delandro.
Yes. Hi, my name is Paul Delandro. I live at 12 Central Boulevard, adjacent to the Hills Project. And growing up in East Quogue, I followed the project since the beginning, and I've always been a big fan of it for the community. I think it provides a lot of benefit, and it's something that's needed in the area. So I'd like to see the board move forward with the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anna Kleinbrockhoff? Did I say that correct?
Klebnikov.
Klebnikov.
Hello, my name is Anna Klebnikov Brinsmaid. I am a 25-year resident of East Quogue, a lifelong resident of Southampton Town. I raised my family in East Quogue. Do you want this? I am firmly opposed to this project, and I have been from the very beginning. I can't believe, as other people have said, that we're still here talking about it. I am firmly opposed to it. I believe it was 2016, there was a meeting at the East Quogue Elementary School, hosted by the wonderful Bob Long. At that meeting, let's see, Dr. Garreau spoke to all of us. He is the head of the Global Coral Reef Alliance. He made a presentation. It was quite a lengthy one. It was in-depth, and he had slides to show us what was going on. I would like to read a letter from him, which I will then give to you. It also contains some links with videos. So he says, "Dear Southampton Town Planning Board, I strongly urge the Southampton Town Planning Board to reject these two proposed golf course developments by Discovery Land Company, based on extensive independent study of the severe negative impacts on marine environments caused by DLC golf courses and other places. I am president of the Global Coral Reef Alliance, a nonprofit organization working worldwide to protect coral reefs and coastal ecosystems that are now severely threatened by global climate change, pollution, and irresponsible coastal development. We are asked to comment on proposed projects around the world and do so independently, only if we know the specific sites well, with insight into their long-term historical changes. While I have not personally worked in Shinnecock Bay itself, I have regenerated salt marshes, oysters, and mussels at the opposite end of Long Island since 2007 with Dr. James Servino in what was once similar salt marsh, oyster, mussel, and crab ecosystems to Shinnecock Bay. My reason for commenting on the proposed DLC golf course development in Southampton is that I have extensively studied the environmental impacts of two of Discovery Land Company's recent golf course developments on the marine environment, and these findings provide insight into unavoidable problems of nutrient pollution on coastal waters into which the groundwaters flow containing fertilizers and pesticides. My opinions expressed are completely independent and purely pro bono publica. I receive no pay for my time or work assessing these impacts, unlike the highly paid consultants who produced the DLC environmental impact assessment that misleadingly claims no environmental harm will result to downstream marine ecosystems. Our before and after field work clearly showed that severe coastal water quality, ecosystem services, and biodiversity impacts will result from such project, and shows that the DLC EIAs are superficial and interpreted in a way that leads to false conclusions. Case 1, DLC golf course at Guano Cay, Abaco, Bahamas. The DLC golf course development was opposed by the island's fishing community because it would destroy the critical nursery grounds for the fishes, lobsters, conchs, and crabs they have lived on for hundreds of years. They asked us to independently assess the health of the reefs and risk to them from the development. And we found the local coral reefs were among the best left in the Bahamas, but would be badly damaged from runoff a golf course marine development that would exist right next to them. The reef was entirely free of weedy, harmful algae and of coral diseases before construction began. Immediately after development, coral diseases appeared and spread rapidly, and harmful algae blooms appeared on the reef, both for the first time. One of the best coral reefs in the Bahamas, some 6,000 to 8,000 years old, was severely degraded in a few years and is now physically collapsing from hurricane waves. Water quality studies at the site and areas, both upcurrent and downcurrent, showed that the algae resulted from golf course fertilizers and sewage coming from the development. The DLC EIA falsely claimed that there would be no leakage of pollution to the marine environment or ecological and fisheries impacts from the DLC development. For more details, and he cites a link. Case number 2, DLC golf course at Palmetto Point, Barbuda. DLC is the major partner in a new development now underway at Palmetto Point, Barbuda, against the will of almost the entire island's population. Barbudans living here lived from the sea for hundreds of years and protect the largest and only pristine lagoon in the Eastern Caribbean, home to the largest Caribbean frigate bird colony and an internationally treaty-protected wetland of global migratory bird importance. Barbuda is too dry for agriculture. Lack of water has prevented tourism, and Barbuda is the only island in the Caribbean owned entirely by its inhabitants. So it is the last pristine island left in the Caribbean, with the richest and most sustainable fisheries. The author concluded the major study of the health of Barbuda coral reefs in 1996 and returned periodically to look at changes. While the entire Barbuda population had been forcibly evacuated after their homes were destroyed by a Category 5 hurricane, DLC and their partners secretly bulldozed the island's major aquifer, providing fresh water to the lagoon, and built a golf course on it without permission of the local government. They plan to dredge the protected lagoon for a marina and build luxury homes on a shore that is rapidly eroding. As planned, this development will destroy the ecological health of the fisheries of the last pristine island on the Caribbean. The damage is now underway, and he cites 3 links. And he goes on to say something which I found a little bit amusing. This development in Barbuda is Discovery Land Company now calls it PLH, which stands for Peace, Love, and Happiness. That is the name of the development. He goes on to say, Shinnecock Bay was once one of the finest estuaries on Long Island, but has been damaged by years of pollution from septic tank effluents to groundwater and coastal water. Now is the time to decrease pollution, not add to it on a large scale. The sandy moraines soils of Long Island rapidly flush golf course fertilizer nutrients and chemicals from the golf course greens straight into the groundwater and the sea, causing harmful algae blooms that will kill desirable marine species and destroy biodiversity. Discovery Land Company claims of no impact of golf course fertilizers and additional sewage to groundwaters and coastal ecosystems at Shinnecock Bay are conclusively negated, not only by DLC's own performance, but by all scientific knowledge and responsible environmental management, even if there were no global sea level rise and global warming underway. The catastrophic effects of excessive groundwater nutrients on coastal ecosystem biodiversity is universal, and the impacts on northeastern coastal ecosystems biodiversity were long shown by researchers like Howard Sanders, John Teal, Ivan Willella, Scott Nixon, Larry Slobodkin, just to mention these people that the author knows personally, and many others. Rich ecosystems full of birds, fishes, crabs have been largely turned into harmful algae, overgrown, toxic sludge caused by runoff of sewage and golf course fertilizers, pesticides, and toxic or mutation-inducing chemicals. There is no excuse to continue killing our last living coastal ecosystem at the very time we most urgently need to preserve and enhance our living shorelines' capacity to adapt our sinking coastlines to accelerating stress from rising sea levels and increasing storm wave intensity. Active regeneration of coastal ecosystems is needed to fend off the climate emergency impacts on coastal communities, not killing the last coastal ecosystems with yet more excessive pollution. My father founded the SUNY Stony Brook Marine Science Program, which has led efforts to manage eastern Long Island coastal habitats like Shinnecock Bay since the 1960s. I can safely speak for all responsible marine scientists in saying it is time to stop destroying our last healthy coastal environments as this irresponsible proposal will do. We urge the Southampton Town Planning Board to please vote to block further damage to Shinnecock Bay. Sincerely yours, Dr. Thomas Garreau.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Tina Calabrese.
Good evening. I am against this project. I'm a social worker for 40 years. I come out here to unwind, to be a part of nature, to have a beautiful community, and I do not want a golf course. I do not want a lot of people. I need to relax because I hear the worst of human nature.
Thank you very much. Elizabeth Jackson. Elizabeth Jackson. Elizabeth Jackson? Yep. Okay.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Jackson. I was born, raised, and live full-time here in East Quogue. I have a degree in environmental studies and spent nearly 5 years from 2007 to 2011 working for the town of Southampton as an environmental technician in the town's environment division. I hear people referring to the fact that we have had the same 10 or 20 people commenting along the way about this project and how they really just need to sit down because the rest of the town is all in favor of this. I will contend that I have made a number of submissions along the way, each and every time with completely different feedback based on exactly what was put in front of us in the application process. I am kind of an outlier in the fact that I have an education in this field. I also have experience being the person charged with trying to find compliance in the field for properties that have had subdivisions approved on them. It's very hard. If we don't make it tight at the beginning, there are so many loopholes that it becomes very challenging for your people in Town Hall to be able to see this to what its grandeur could be. Because of that, and the fact that I'm now a dog walker and have time on my hands, I have no monetary investment in this. I have no paid loyalties to anyone. I live here. I know a lot of people here. That said, I've been spending hundreds of hours voluntarily going through each set of plans. When the Pine Barrens, I showed up at the meetings, I read through them, I gave comments, gave feedback. Hopefully those are still in the file. If you want to look at them, I suggest go and see. A lot of the comments have been tweaked a bit. For those that think that the plan has been going on for so long and just let them go, unfortunately, if you paid attention as they went along, the problem is each time the application comes back, it's coming back in a weaker state than when we sent it from the last approval. When you look at the plans now, I don't even understand how you can have a site plan when you have a subdivision that doesn't even exist. If you read the plans right now as they came in and are ready to get approved, there's no tax map numbers. Most of these documents don't have a tax map number. Why is that? Because for the entire time we've been going through this, they've taken the loophole that they own 178 parcels that they've never merged together for their reasoning, I don't know. So you're having a site plan on 178 parcels. How does that even happen? What's going to happen is it's going to create a bunch of bubbles that will never be able to be placed properly so that the next people can follow through with regulating it in the future. At the same time, you look at the plans now. I was looking more extensively at the site plans. They all of a sudden will start omitting parts of the project. They will add when they want, they'll take away. There's streets missing. There's keys missing. Doesn't say what happens on Spinney Road. All of a sudden, one map will show that there's large man-made ponds. The next one just shows topo and has no reference of the fact that there's ponds there. They don't have an address. They don't have, they keep saying that it's the property is the DLV landowner, or DLV Discovery Landowners, whatever, LLC, listed on all the different surveys. They don't own all those properties. The new plans for the site plan don't even reference all of the properties that are the Parlato and Tipperman properties that are not contiguous to the project. So what's really happening is you had a project here in a very environmentally sensitive area, which has never been developed for a reason. They've managed over the time to get all those homeowners to buy in and sell off their property because they were worth nothing to anyone. They grabbed them all together. Now they want to develop here. So what they're doing is they're buying space above Sunrise Highway. That's not going to be built. That's protected land. Core preservation land, it's not going to be built. It's protected land. They're selling it back to you if you'll accept it, which means they're not paying taxes on it because they're going to dedicate it back to the town of Southampton. The property that's off of Old Country Road, same difference. Most of it's not developed now, but what it's going to do is it's basically just a bank check because they don't even have clients that are going to see that property because they're going to develop where they want to develop, and they're just going to keep buying and selling and trying to get the peace of mind that this project is good. If you look at numbers, if you're in an aquifer protection overlay parcel anywhere else in the town, you're only allowed to develop so much of your property, which means you live with the rest of your property wooded. And if you cut it down, you're in trouble. If you cut it down, you got to come to you guys and get approval to fix it. You got to pay a lot of money as a Joe Schmo person that lives in the APOD. If you are on this property, the APOD really applies to, we'll just buy parcels somewhere else and have that be our land, and then we'll develop where we want to, when we want to, how we want to. The fact that this just came back with a new location for the road entrance from Lewis Road, the fact that every part where they ask on the applications for information, it says, see this, see that. What's secret? Write it down. Put it in. If this was a project at school, you'd be failing from this application. That's my problem. We've had to do so much extra work that we wouldn't have had to do if they had done it the way they were supposed to do it. But they're intentionally not because it makes it that much more of a moving target. I have plenty more to say. I don't think they're complete at all, so I would suggest that potentially you could rescind the last meeting's determination where you kind of were forced to quickly say, let's make sure both a site plan and a subdivision are complete at this moment. Definitely can't close the public hearing because public only barely got to even look at the project. Most of us couldn't even get a hold of what the full project was. I don't see a survey that shows the whole project. We were looking at those every time along the way when we were at Pine Barrens. There was a completely different layout to the project. Now, all the stuff I see looks nothing like we've been looking at. And we spent hundreds of hours driving all the way out to go to those Pine Barrens meetings. I don't know how you could say they're the same projects because I can't even compare them one next to the other. I will try my best to put my words on writing and submit to you. I just would ask that knowing who I am and how I've presented myself at every meeting along the way, hopefully you can find the letters and take a look and see what I'm saying. Definitely cannot be done with this today because I don't even know what the project is today. And I'm, if no one else, one of the most qualified because I've been paying attention the whole way as it is. Last comment would be, just remember, Wayne Bruin in this scenario and Nelson Pope Voorhees, all that, this scenario, they're not working for the town. They are employed by the agent, by the consultants, by the developers. When they're on this podium, giving you all the niceties, that is their position being paid to do those comments. It's very offensive if you're a townsperson listening because it makes it feel like they're trying to just win you over and say, oh, this is all that's changed environmentally, it's all the same. It's not the case. They didn't mention anything about how much we've actually progressed. I'm not saying no development at this moment because I know it might be reality. What I am saying is you need to know that if this gets approved right now, you will not get most of, if any of the things you think are happening because they're not written in, they're not documented properly, and there's no way to possibly manage them as it is today.
Great.
Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Eric Ryder. Eric Ryder. Eric Ryder.
Only once? No? Cole Webb? Cole Webb?
Hello, everyone on the board. I definitely don't have too much to say, but I do live in Southampton. I work at a golf course, and I challenge anyone to go to any local golf course and tell me it's not beautiful and it doesn't add to the, local community and how much it's, I guess I'm one-sided because I am a golfer, but it definitely, I don't think, hurts the community. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
David Celli? So, everyone who has signed has spoken. We now have 32 people in the Zoom waiting room. So, we will start with those. And thank you very much for your input and for coming, the people who came.
Well, I wouldn't have.
Thank you.
So, can we just double check that he's going to let people in now? We're ready for Zoom.
About half. When I realized that there was more, yeah. You're right.
That's what I just said to Craig.
Yes. Doing the cadence. Yeah. I should.
Okay, no. Excuse me? No, but it should be brief. We'll move it along. Yes. So please identify, can you hear us? Claire, we're going to need some assistance with this Zoom in terms of identifying people. Hello?
Mr. Oxman, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. How are
Okay.
you?
You need to identify yourself for the board.
Sure. Good evening, Lawrence Oxman, Larry Oxman. I've lived and worked in Southampton town since 1979. Very familiar with the town. Just wanted to make a few comments, one on the comments that were made tonight, and then just offer some additional. I'll try and be brief. So, my understanding, it was a comment made about the ZBA. My understanding that the ZBA basically just dealt with the use and not the site plan, which is under what basically you do. Another comment about the sewage treatment plant. Again, it sounds like someone doesn't really fully understand what a sewage treatment plant does and how it works. It does not spew sewage back into the environment. It does not spew sewage into the bays. With all respect to Elizabeth Jackson's comments, and she said that she's the most qualified, she clearly does not understand how a cluster development works. Fortunately, you, the planning board, understands how and why development rights are shifted within a property, which segues into comment about 100,000 acres of the Pine Barrens to be preserved. Well, that's just not true. I was around at that time. The Pine Barren regulations divided the entire Pine Barrens into two distinct regions. You have the core area and you have the compatible growth area. Development rights from the core area were supposed to be shifted over to the compatible growth area within the Pine Barrens. And actually, that's exactly what this project does. It has property that's in the core area, close to Sunrise Highway and on the north side of Sunrise Highway. And they're taking those development rights as intended and using it within the compatible growth area. So I think that, again, there's a misunderstanding very often about how the Pine Barrens Act was supposed to work and does. A site plan is a fluid process. When they come before the town, the planning board, there are changes and modifications along that process. It doesn't stay as the original, it never stays as the original application. Again, it's fluid. So when Chick Voorhees was talking about some of the changes that were being made, that was basically changes that were being asked of shifting the sewage treatment plant, of dedicating land for the Suffolk County Water Authority for future wells. To me, this really demonstrates the complete dedication and commitment of the developer to work with the town and other agencies to develop this property in the most responsible fashion.
Thank you.
And kind of concluding, the simple fact is that the development conforms to the zoning regulations that are designed by the town to protect the environment. And that's exactly what they're doing. Lastly, I really commend the planning board for being able to dismiss and ignore insults and accusations from opponents that somehow you're acting improperly, or worse, insinuating that you're acting for personal gain. So I urge the planning board to close this public hearing. I guess we'll leave it open for some written comment, but to move forward, I fully support the application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a list of who's next here?
Kevin, can you let the next person in?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Dick Amper?
Hello, I'm Nina Lenhart, and I am on the board of the Long Island Pine Barrens Society and work very closely with Dick. He is here, but he asked me to read the statement and make our comments. We have submitted a letter to the chair, and thank you for hearing us. We remain concerned about the future of the Pine Barrens in the town of Southampton and for the drinking water and habitat that this ecological system supports. Our opposition to the Lewis Road subdivision has been duly noted in the records of many previous town and Pine Barrens Commission meetings, so we will not enumerate them here. However, we firmly believe that this application is incomplete, as the resort complex has not been vetted or approved as required by SECRA and the Pine Barrens Act. This complex appears to be a separate project and must be submitted for formal review before being voted on the board that you chair. Therefore, the project as presented is inconsistent with the preservation objectives of the Pine Barrens Act and is, in fact, more deleterious to the environment than its previous iteration. So what we're saying here is in agreement with some of the comments.
We've lost your audio.
You lost us?
Yes, lost
There you
your
go.
audio. There you are.
Okay. And we see this as a project different from the one that had been previously approved and believe that the requirements of SECRA must be carefully followed. Without that, we don't see how this project can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin, next person, please.
On it.
You wanna-
Hi, Dick.
We're going to get a list for you.
Please. You want to hand that to
We have somebody else.
Here we go. Yes, please, state your name for the record.
Hello.
Yes, state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Danny Canamori. I have recently bought a property in East Quogue. Can you hear me?
Yes?
Yep. I recently bought a property in East Quogue, and I plan on moving my family out there after I build my house. It's at 88 Lewis Road, so right near the property that's been spoken about. I came home to a letter, and I just thought that my perspective maybe, I have an opinion on this. I bought a piece of land here, and I was hoping to build a family here. Can you guys hear me? I can't hear you guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. So I bought a piece of property, and I bought to build a home for my family. I'm recently divorced. I have 2 kids. I'm very close to my ex-wife. She's my best friend, and we were looking for a place where and hopefully she finds a place where we could build a family together. We both grew up in a town called Brookline, Massachusetts, and it is a town outside Boston which had the luxury of a place like the country club, which had a big golf, which is a well-known golf place. I don't even golf, so this is of no interest to me. But I also grew up in a town that had housing projects, and I can tell you that my life and a lot of the people I grew up with, my life was completely affected by the fact that the integration of all these worlds. A lot of the kids I grew up with playing basketball with, got their first jobs. A lot of kids didn't have chances, got their first jobs. In fact, one of my dreams, and I'm hoping to build a basketball court on my property so that I can start a basketball team in the neighborhood. I played basketball in college, and I know that a big thing, and this is no comment on the economy, this is no comment on the environment. I'm not educated enough to speak about it, and I certainly don't know about all the rules that govern a lot of these acts you guys are talking about. But what I do know is that I do really like the town, and I walked and I talked to people, and I talked to young people, and I know that the opportunities when I think about my own children getting older, and I think about the integration of these things. I'm a firm believer that this is a progress, and I understand that there's some people who spoke earlier and said they don't like the idea of one lady works social work and she deals with people with problems and she comes from nature and this. I think if we learned anything during COVID and we've learned anything, I think we should take opportunities to be more integrated and to be more together. And again, I have no real care about the interest as far as golf itself. I literally have never golfed in my life, but I do find that the opportunities that you bring for me, and just let me actually quick step back. I personally, my father's Japanese, my mom was Israeli, I married an Irish Catholic girl, my kids are 19 different things, and the idea of that.
Mr. Kanamori, can you please address the application? We have 30 more Zoom things. Thank you.
I guess what I'm trying to say is.
I just want to say there's opportunity.
Not just opportunity. I think it's an exciting thing for the future for young people. And I think a lot of young people I haven't heard from a lot of young people here, and I am younger and I have 2 little kids, and I think it will benefit a lot of people, not just the economy, but the integration of ideas. And I think that, I apologize, I can't speak to the other things that Larry Oxman and other people spoke about, but I'm fully supportive of this. And I think the idea is to put that, it would be silly.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have a list?
They're working on it. The problem is that people don't have names.
Okay, so can we please have the next speaker, Kevin?
Who is this? Me.
Somebody said they really want to talk to them. They're not done.
Yes, please, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Can you state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Colleen Carini.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Colleen Carini. Good evening, Planning Board. I am a resident taxpayer in the town for over 32 years. I reside on Pleasure Drive in Flanders. This proposed project sits atop of my family's water source, which is the aquifer which my family and my neighbor's water originates from. My concerns are water quality, air quality, quality of life, traffic, the possibility of an increase of cancer rates, of the impact on the environment itself, in the air and in the water. And also I did some research on Discovery Land's reputation in other communities where they have built these sites. And if you have done your research, the reputation is not a very good one. I don't trust Discovery Land, and I oppose this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May we have the next speaker, Kevin?
Lear. They texted me a list, so Lear, L-E-I-R, if you could let that person in to speak. I'm just going to jump to the next one. Liz Jackson already spoke. Mara Joy. Kevin, if you could let in Mara Joy. Kevin hears me. Kevin, can you hear me?
Yeah, no one's raising their hands, so I don't know if they want to speak to me.
Okay, if the speakers, I'm going to call your names. If you're on the Zoom, I'm going to call your names out. If you want to speak, please raise your hand so that the moderator can let you in. I'm going to try one more time from the beginning. L-E-I-E-R, liar. Is there a hand, Kevin?
No more hands.
Okay. So
Go
my
just go
assumption
down
is
the
that
list.
nobody wants to speak. Do you want me to go down the list? Mara Joy.
Yes.
Hand?
No hand.
Matthew Wyckoff.
No hand.
Maureen McGarvey. Hand?
No hands.
M-E-F in all caps.
No.
Meg.
No.
M-M-D-P.
No.
R. Langan.
No.
Ron.
No.
Terry.
No.
Tom.
No.
Lee DeYoung.
No.
Amanda.
No.
Andy.
No.
Bob Tannhauser.
No.
Brian Tiemann.
No.
I'm going to spell this one out. I think it's Carancio, but C-A-R-A-N-C-I-O.
No.
Denise Nazo.
No.
Doria Hughes.
No.
Jackie.
We have Doria Hughes.
Okay.
What was that name?
Doria Hughes. Doria, if you can turn on your video and/or audio. Kevin, are you getting her?
No, I'm trying to get her to turn herself on.
Jackie. Dave Seeley is here. You called him before, he didn't answer, so I don't know if you wanted to talk or not. Dave Seeley.
Was he on the list?
He was on your list from before, but he didn't answer, but I don't know if he wants to talk.
I'll ask if
She's not-
someone wants to
she's
speak.
not answering, so-
She's not.
All right, Dory is not answering. I'm just going to go to the next person. Dory, if you still want to speak, keep your hand up and he'll try and get you in. Jackie. Jenny. Okay, that's all I have.
That's it. Okay, well, our Zoom contingency seems to have vanished, so I'm going to go back to in-person. Is anyone here who has not spoken would like to speak? Please.
My name's Dave Seeley. I live in Hampton Bays / East Quogue. Lived here 48 years of my 48-year life. You know, I lived on Spinney Road. I've lived around East Quogue all my life. I'm here to support the project, and for this, we don't have much of an alternative. In my opinion, this property is going to be built on. We've already just, you know, that's pretty much been decided at this point, because everything's been exhausted at this point. We're not going to be able to preserve it. It can't be purchased by the town or any of that anymore. So we're going to have a development of some type. What development do we want? Do we want something that pays bills? Do we want something that has going to have multi-million-dollar homes that's going to afford the school a little more tax revenue? Or are we going to have something like, I don't know, multifamily housing development that could put hundreds of kids, maybe more than a couple hundred, maybe 300 or 400 kids into a school that can't afford it? So we have a choice. We have a choice either to go with a project that's going to provide a lot of tax revenue without using a lot of the benefits of the town, or roads, or everything else. So we do have a choice to make here. We're going to develop this property one way or the other. In my opinion, this is the better of the developments. So I'd just like to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I think we've
There's
done.
somebody in the back.
Bob DeLuca?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As I said, I wanted others to be able to have a chance to speak. We took some time. Thank you for that. I would just say this at the end. Look, whether you like the project or don't like the project, I think the concern, if you step back from this, is that you really know what's happening? And I say that not to be a clown. I can't really figure out when the various parts of the project changed and what they changed into. And maybe the biggest part of it most recently has been, if you take a look at these design drawings, it's a very substantial project, right? I don't know how you fit that into a residential subdivision when the Zoning Board of Appeals basically said you can have 18 golf holes with a couple of, maintenance buildings, what have you. They never dealt with that. That came in to you as a site plan, but that site plan was also sort of subordinate to the subdivision plan. And then you went ahead and you approved the subdivision plan, and subordinate to that was a site plan approval for that thing, or something like it. And I'm not sure any of you really know what that is, or how big it is, or, there's some recent design drawings that became available, I think Thursday or Friday for us. So, when you look at the secret process, and I realize, this could be mind-numbing, but here's the thing. In 1975, the New York State Legislature decided that we had a bifurcated, broken-up process to approve development projects, and we needed to do something that pulled the pieces together. That was the basic goal. You could look it up. And that we, and you, had an obligation to be stewards of the environments. So this thing wasn't just a paper chase. There's a reason why the process and the procedure leads to a better outcome. And I may not like the outcome, but the process gets you to a place where you as a board and the public in general knows what the project is, knows what the basic, most important elements are, knows what's being reviewed when, knows what's the site plan and what's the subdivision and which piece has been approved by what bodies, and then that is what you make your decision on. And frankly, from the standpoint of an opponent, you're much better off, because there's not a lot to shoot at if you do that. On the other hand, what happens, and this is, we've said this many times, when this project moved from the town board to the planning board and became two separate new applications, and the board decided to go along as an involved agency. It just can't be, because an involved agency has to be involved subordinate to a lead agency. And the town board can't be a lead agency when it has no approval jurisdiction over any part of this project. So you have to figure that out. And you have to figure out what you're going to do, and to hearken back to a project that was different and denied. And by the way, this alternative, such that it is now in one or two different pictures, it's not in the old draft environmental impact statement. And the mitigation measures, the 33-acre purchase, the septic system for the school, the $1 million fund for East Quogue septic improvements, if you look at the finding statement from the original draft environmental impact statement, you will find that it says that those elements, whether you want to call them community benefits, environmental benefits, mitigation measures, were a response to substantive comments that came, you can look it up. That's what came out of the public hearing process. And the applicants provided that because that's what was being looked for. And you may recall Chris Gobler did this analysis and so forth, and he looked at all of those elements. So if those elements are gone, and the project has a different density, and the project has a different design, and the project has a sewage treatment plant, and the sewage treatment plant has been moved, and the road and circulation patterns are different than they were when you first looked at this thing, you have some work to do. And I get it, it's complicated. I'm not dogging them or anybody else. I'm just saying, like, this is, it's like if you take a train and you're trying to go to California, and one train goes 2 feet off the right direction, 2 weeks later it's in New Mexico, and the other one is in California. Like, it just got off the rail. So again, without even an opinion about the project, you as a board are responsible for whatever this project looks like for the next several hundred years. It's a big responsibility. We look to the planning board to take this responsibility. All we can do is let you know what we're thinking, but it's a big deal because there's going to be lots of other projects that follow behind it. And I'm concerned about the project, obviously, for the issues that we've raised, but I'm just concerned about what comes before you the next time and the time after that. If you get the secret piece down tight, every project is going to come in and be reviewed the same way. Some other change of zone comes in front of the planning board, they don't get it, they come back to you, they go to the ZBA, whatever. You're going to say, all right, here's what we're going to do. And by the way, you coordinate review, you declare lead agency, you make a determination of significance. Even if I don't like the determination of significance, I got nothing to shoot at. You did the process. Like right now, there's just a big gap. And I'm not sure anybody did it on purpose, but I'm saying it's there and it's obvious, and I just think from the standpoint of what the public is expecting from the board, part of SECR is transparency and disclosure. And I'll tell you what, I'm actually sympathetic for the applicants. If they go to Pine Barrens and Pine Barrens asks for this, and the Health Department asks for that, and somebody else asks for this, I'm sympathetic to that issue. But the SECR process, if you did it at the beginning, pulls all that stuff together earlier on, and you have a better shot at getting to a finish line that at least is the same proposal. So I ask you to just think about that. I appreciate all of your time and tolerance for our commentary, and I think you got to get a handle on this, and I say don't close the hearing, because I don't think you're serving the interest of your responsibility and the public's interest, and ultimately what we're going to do about the future of this town, because we're getting hammered by everything, and you guys are kind of the line between the public interest and everybody else's interest. So I thank you for your time, appreciate it, and good luck.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to leave this hearing open. And you can, Wayne?
So I appreciate the planning board's time and everybody that appeared tonight to make their comments known. As we said from the outset, this is a public hearing on a final application. The planning board held several public hearings on the preliminary. In the plan before you, we have identified what the changes were in the plan that you approved. So there should be no question. The files and the applications are here. It's very clear, and I'm just surprised by some of the professionals that have expressed the lack of the ability to understand this particular map or any of the maps that are there. We spent from January to August with the staff. We made a submission. We had the staff. This was not just this staff. Engineering, everybody, looking at this application to get it to a point where it would be complete for public review. That's all it is. It's complete for public review to allow this public hearing to get comments on this final application. But it is a final application. It's not the preliminary. We're not talking about the design anymore. You approved the design. In my submission, I suggest you look, and I quote sections out of McKinney's statutes, which express what the purpose of the final plat is, and why there is a preliminary application review and why there's a final application review. And basically, the final application is to provide for the implementation of the approval that you granted. It's to get down to the engineering details. The subdivider is supposed to be able to rely on your preliminary approval before it expends huge amounts of money getting those final engineering and everything else that's necessary. That's the purpose of the final application. Just go back and look at your preliminary approval. The issue tonight, as council already mentioned, was the changes. We identified those changes, pretty clear. And who prompted those changes? It came from review of town staff, including Marty Shea and staff. It came from Pine Barrens. It came from the town engineer. For example, the town engineer adopted a change in the runoff requirement from 2 inches to 3 inches. Planning board members would know. That required us to go back, re-engineer things, and it changed drainage components and things of that sort, which caused some shifting and the like. We've identified all that for you. But nothing was substantive. These changes basically were still with 118 lots or units. They were always in the clubhouse, in the design that was reviewed and approved by the preliminary, by the board at the preliminary stage. The size and what's inside those buildings has all been part of the preliminary review. We're down to materials, these elevations. This is what the board requires. And as far as site plan, it was this board's insistent that we do a application for site plan. But the site plan is, but for the approval of the subdivision, the site plan doesn't exist. And this board has routinely approved recreational amenities on reserved parcels without the extensive site plan review that we're going through. So nonetheless, we applied and we provided you with all the information. We both understand that this application is a combined application, a combined hearing, site plan subdivision. There is no distinction. As far as the units are concerned, 110 are on separate lots. Detached dwellings can be approved. 8 of the 118 allowed units are multiple dwellings within the common area buildings. That has always been part of the design. You looked at that at the pre-application. You approved it on the preliminary. It's the same now. What you have is more details, just as what is required for final plat review. What I would suggest is none of the comments tonight go to the substance of the final plat. You hear arguments that were raised at the pre-application stage about the seeker process. They were raised during the preliminary. This board rejected them. There was a lawsuit. It was dismissed, and it wasn't appealed. The law of the case is now that the planning board's preliminary approval is intact. So there's a number of things that were raised that are not substantive to the application. It's about delay. And as far as the public hearing, the concern is, who are we looking for to provide additional comments? As this board is common, would be to close the hearing, have a written comment period where all these people, even the letters that we heard tonight, can provide their comments, in which case we can have an opportunity to address them for the board. That is your practice. I don't see the benefit of keeping the hearing open. As you indicated, there's 30-some people on Zoom who then chose not to comment. So I don't see any other members of the public. We've been here tonight. I think everybody had a fair opportunity. They also have a fair opportunity to provide comment. So I would suggest that you do what you commonly do, particularly on a final application that's in substantial compliance with the conditions of your preliminary approval. Under the state statute, you're not required to have a final hearing when it's in substantial agreement. But the degree of public interest warrants it. But the question is, continuing this, at this point, there's no benefit. I would suggest that you close it with a public, with a written comment period.
Well, what let me just say that it's our right to keep a hearing open. There are people who could not come tonight, who might want to come. It gives us an opportunity to review more information. We probably will want more information. And so in terms of transparency and this board trying to do its job with a very complicated application, the single largest application in 3 decades in the town of Southampton, we have a right to keep the hearing open. So I don't know if anybody else on the board wants to speak to that.
If I might,
But,
if I might add a comment or two, I would
Let me just
appreciate
hear
that.
from the board before, please, if anybody on the board.
Can I weigh in? Am I being
Sure,
heard?
sure.
My camera, and I apologize for the Zoom, I can only see your dais. But has everyone been heard in the audience?
Yes, people who signed up, yes. The people who
Okay,
signed
what
up.
about the Zoom people? Are we?
I don't know whether there was
Because-
I don't know if there's a technical issue or what, but we had many more signed up. Zoom can be problematic.
Is there a technical issue or is there?
We don't know.
We don't know.
That's a board member that was not able to
He's a board
be
member
here.
who's coming on Zoom.
Does he have a name? Okay. because-
Dennis Finnerty.
We keep hearings open for the purpose of getting additional comment. If we've heard all the comments, I'm preparing to stay here and get all the comments.
Well,
People
Dennis,
are
we have
aware.
kept-
Otherwise, we typically close and we leave the written record open for 30 days.
Right, but this is not. So,
Down the road.
This is not a typical application in the sense of there probably might be, we'll give an opportunity for people to send in their comments. I hope everyone who testified will send in their comments. So I'm asking that it be held open. I don't know if the rest of the board
We're talking
agrees.
about written comments.
Well, they have to do that anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way we've always handled it.
Closing it or keeping it open? Does the board presently now, tonight, vote on this? He's saying close it. The rest of you vote on it?
Hang on. How do you all feel?
I'm inclined to keep it open. I'd like some more time for people from both sides to weigh in on the matter. It's an important file.
No, please, this is.
I might be able to help the board a bit if you don't mind me making a comment.
I think we should keep it open. I'm, if only for transparency, that a lot of stuff came in late, and therefore, let's give people the opportunity to review it.
Yeah.
If I might,
If we, to the sidebar comments, if we do keep it open, will we receive comments from the same folks who have already spoken, or just the new individuals who have not yet
The
had
idea
the
would
chance
be,
to speak?
yes, people who've not had.
To be
could not
clear about
come.
that.
Exactly.
no, you get comments from everybody, whoever wants to
You're
put
not
them
going to be
in.
able to stop people who have
No,
spoken.
if they
from
want
speaking.
to.
Anybody is.
Right.
So, open. So it's the, sorry, Dennis, but it's the majority of the board to keep the hearing open, so we will keep it open.
May I ask?
Yes, please.
Okay. Before you make a final decision, I'm the attorney who's been litigating these matters, the Article 78, so I have some personal knowledge. The issues that have been raised today, all of the environmental issues, every one without exception, including process, lead agency, significant impacts, water quality, everything else was already raised and discussed. You heard absolutely nothing new tonight in terms of environmental issues. In fact, those issues were put in litigation papers. They were litigating against this board, okay, against the planning board. Mr. DeLuca, Mr. Bragman sued this board over the preliminary plat approval. That appeal was not perfected. It has been abandoned. All of those issues have been abandoned. Now, they want to raise them again tonight. I understand they want to make a big deal about all of this. The bottom line is that you have not heard anything new that warrants you keeping this public hearing open. Furthermore, and I said it in the beginning because I knew what was going to happen, the comments should have been directed to the changes that were proposed from the preliminary approval that you issued. What you heard tonight was virtually no comments about that at all. You heard some people say some of the golf course holes were moved, and one other person said that the sewage treatment plant was moved. That was it. Of all of the comments that you heard about people talking about Barbuda, you heard about all these, which, by the way, were all brought up before. So what I'm saying to you is, of course you have the right to hold open a public hearing. Nobody is saying otherwise. But when you hold open a public hearing for submission of written comments, all of those people who were listening on Zoom tonight and who might not have, either for technical reasons or otherwise, not participated, that's why you hold the public hearing open for written comments.
We hold a public hearing, if I may say so that the public can participate.
Yes.
And that's what we're doing.
And that's what I'm talking about, and what I'm suggesting.
We're not planning by litigation.
No, you're not.
Okay, so.
Madam Chair, what I'm talking about is the reality of what happened, okay?
I'm just about the reality.
Right, so what I'm saying to you is straightforward.
Yes.
You have not heard anything tonight that anybody can point to objectively that shows that there is a member of the public who has not had an opportunity to speak, or who will not have an opportunity to submit written comments. What will happen is the prejudice will be to the applicant, because there is a window of time in order to be able to clear land. There are environmental concerns, and what this delay, the real reason why there's a delay that's being asked for here is so that the applicant will not be able to do land clearing if final approvals are issued in the winter time when that is allowed, and it'll push everything back 11 months. That's what's really going on
So that's
here.
news to us.
Well, that's why I'm up here
We're leaving
talking
it
to you.
open for reasons of transparency and for us to be able to read documents that came in just recently.
This public hearing process, ma'am, does not change your ability to review documents. It doesn't do anything about that. You have the ability to review documents and decide to act when you want. The only thing that this does is it delays the entire process, because everything else flows from this. So what I'm saying to you is, if you just want to treat the applicant, I have to grant an approval, that's not what tonight is. I'm just saying, how about a process that is fair? If someone had raised a single issue tonight, one, that raised something that was worthy of keeping this open because it was a whole legitimate issue raised about the final plan that were put in, that raised a question that was serious, but you didn't hear any of those comments. So what are you holding this open for? People have an opportunity for 30 days to put in written comments. Everybody who has wanted to speak tonight was able to speak tonight. So tell me, what is it that you're actually doing for the benefit of anybody? You're only doing something to hurt the applicant. That's what's happening.
Certainly not hurting the applicant. Thank you very much.
When would the next time, if we keep the public hearing open, when would the next time?
Next available one is September 22nd.
September
2 weeks.
22nd. 2 weeks.
One more on Zoom? You okay with that?
Yeah.
One more person would like to speak.
What'd he say? There's one more Zoom.
We're keeping the hearing open.
All right, they can come in the next, September 22nd.
I don't think he can.
Kevin?
Kevin, did you hear that?
Kevin?
Can you repeat that?
have them Zoom in on the 22nd of September. We're keeping the hearing open.
Comments, written comments.
And written comments as well.
Till, for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, written comments.
yeah.
I'm inclined to. What do you have to control?
Okay, so we're going to keep the hearing open until September 22nd. We'll receive comments. You can send your comments in written form. And I thank everybody for coming.
You should vote on that.
Okay, so we're going to vote for,
Close them both out? You can adjourn them both then?
oh, both, right, yes, they have to do both,
Yes.
right? So,
Motion.
a motion to keep the hearing open
Motion to adjourn?
and to adjourn.
Subdivision to September 22nd.
Well, for the subdivision and the site plan until September 22nd.
Motion.
Motion by Craig.
I'll second.
Second by Kate. All in favor? Aye.
And that will be the end of written comments also.
We have opposed, and
We have
and George is opposed.
And
Two
George is
opposed. Okay?
Wait.
Okay, so thank you. That's it. Motion to adjourn.
You're doing, we have a second, are you doing two, another application? Two motions?
We have
Site
another.
plan
No,
review.
we haven't.
Sure.
We have another hearing.
Christine, are they here?
Yeah, Mr. Mezaneski, is he here?
Yes, he's in the back.
And
Can everyone step outside? You're having
So do this thing, right?
And written comments for 2 more.
Southampton Farm Supply.
I wouldn't keep it 2 weeks because you're putting down
That's
time.
why, right.
You
That's why
cut
I was,
yourself.
I wouldn't.
I apologize for yelling.
Can I just
I
ask
apologize
a
for yelling.
question?
It's okay.
We're still.
Can I just ask a question? Is the 22nd, is that it? Like, will that be the last meeting?
Probably.
Thank you.
Maybe it'll give us some time.
Don't rely.
Is he here still? Oh, there he is.
Right here.
After.
Can you all step outside? I'm sorry. This is another hearing. Thank you.
She had, Tacky had asked a couple people to put it in writing.
Who's reading this?
I am. I was just waiting till it got quiet.
Do we have
Yeah, we do,
notice?
Madam Chair.
Sufficient notice, okay.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 417 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, September 8, 2022, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the site plan application entitled Southampton Farm Supply LLC. Said site plan application is for a retail nursery use consisting of office, warehouse, and second-floor apartments in an existing barn to be rehabilitated with associate parking located on a 2.06-acre parcel in the HB Business Zoning District located at 512 County Road 39, Tuckahoe, Southampton Tax Map Number 900-158-2-1.
Good evening, Stephen Mezaneski, 512 County Road 39. Here we have the application in front of you for the restoration of an iconic barn. It's the old Roscoe barn. I believe you've all seen the plans,
Yes.
and any questions, I'm here to answer.
Should we get anyone from the hallway
Yeah.
to come and comment on your application?
I give you, all you members of the board, a lot of respect.
Thank you. We welcome that.
Wow.
We could use a hug now.
So, did you put a new roof on, or you didn't? What
I'm
was
waiting for you.
okay, so we're having full review, site
Yes.
plan review?
In the next couple weeks.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
Definitely.
Good.
And I would like to get the building closed up before winter, so
Sure.
it doesn't get any more damage.
Right. Well, what do you think it'll be on the agenda for?
I'm going to do, if you do a short comment period, which there's been no public interest so far, I could probably do the staff report at the next meeting and then decision on the following.
Okay, so September 22nd?
Didn't we have a bunch
make
of
it
people
first on
sign
the
up today?
agenda.
We made it
Okay,
first
all
on
right.
the agenda. This time.
Do we need to have an open comment period, or can you just close it?
Did you want to
close
just
this
check
with
if
10
there's
days.
somebody in Zoom? Just want to double check this.
Kevin, is there anybody
We
to
said that they
speak
would
on
come
Zoom?
September
No, this
22nd.
No, for this meeting.
application.
Oh, for this?
Kevin?
There are 40 people in Zoom.
None of them want to talk.
We don't think so.
So
No, all the
September,
people that didn't want to talk are here.
September 22nd, you'll have some report, and then,
Yeah, I plan for this project, yes.
okay, and then we can,
Staff
We can approve then?
I could do a draft decision too, if you're comfortable with that, but
Mhm.
your deadline wouldn't be until later, so, yeah, we could do that. if you want.
So we can close this with
5 days.
5 day,
That way it gives me time to get them. and
5
put
day
them in
written
our
comment
report,
period,
yes.
okay.
We could probably aim for approving, but if we don't have the report fully vetted out, then it'll be the
Well,
next
I
meeting.
think you might need a couple meetings, I'm just saying.
Kevin, anybody there?
No hands are raised.
Okay.
Okay, no one from the public wishes to speak, so I'll entertain a motion to close with a 5-day written comment period. Motion by George.
Second.
Second by Gloria, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate all your help.
Waiting.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion
I'm
by
taking one.
Craig.
I think I have one
Second
still at the
by
house.
Gloria.
Kate
All in
needs one.
favor?
Kate needs
Just so you
one.
know, I was in
Hey, I'm
the
taking a
needs
vote,
one.
please.
Tom downstairs.
I'm taking a
Tom,
vote,
Tom.
motion to adjourn.
Yes.
What?
Motion.
No, we have motion and a second. All
Okay.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,